had a guy who had a holding company. He had 3 companies over here, and a 4th one which he started a while back. He had it over here, and what he wanted to do was have this as part of the holding company structure, so he can move money around and be flexible. So what we did was we moved this company up here, and this owned property, and it had loans, which makes it just more complicated. And so he's going to give his shares, because he owns the shares directly, to this company here, and he owns this company ultimately. So it's called a share for share exchange, okay? And usually, if that happens, you've got to pay potentially capital gains tax, possibly some income tax, and SDLT, because it's got property in there. But if you do a share for share exchange and you do it properly, no tax to pay, and this company moves over here, okay, and becomes part of the group. That's number 2. That's something for you to think about if you already have companies going. The third one is a bit complicated. So we had a guy who owned about 15 properties, yeah? And what he wanted to do was incorporate, so we form a new company here. And then what he wanted to do was, he wanted to add his children, so small little boys and girls here, okay, to his company. There were 3 of them. And he wanted to give them the future profits and the capital value. So I don't expect you to know the answer about your capital value. You can contribute. What do you think he can do when he moves the properties here to give these guys and girls some future profits and the future capital value? Anybody want to hazard a guess?
Give the shares.
Give the shares, yeah? Okay, we're going to come back to you in a second. Shares. Anything else, anybody?
Make them directors.
Make them directors, yeah. And if you make them directors, what's the benefits?
Dividends.
The dividends for what?
Salary.
Salary?
And the dividends.
Okay. So you said salary and dividends? Okay. Do you have to be a director to get dividends? Sorry?
Do you or the
Shareholder, okay. So in that case, you were right over here, so we don't need this. And do they have to be directors to earn a salary?
No.
No. And in this particular example here, do you think mum and dad would want to make their children directors? Because directors have more power and more authority and more influence over a company. Do you think the parents may want to make their children directors or just employees?
Employees with shareholders.
Employees, okay. Shareholder employees, okay. So, we're over here and this is getting quite messy now. So, if mum and dad give some shares to their children, are there going to be any tax consequences?
Yeah.
Yeah? And what tax are they going to pay for giving away their shares?
The accountant.
I'll leave all the easy questions to you, see, I'll answer the hard ones. Usually when somebody sells shares or sells property, what tax do they pay?
inheritance coming out or not?
The stamp.
Income tax if you're trading, but if you own property and you've owned it for, let's say, the last 5 years, capital gains tax, okay? So CGT. Yeah? So in this particular scenario here, I think this is, what I'm going to share with you now, is a very tax efficient way of structuring your particular property business. So what we did for him was have a company, and his initial capital value, so the value of those 15 properties since the day he bought them, we set up a trust here. So the trust gets some of the shares, which covers his previous gain. So there's no CGT to pay once we've incorporated and done this. Then what we do is we make the children, we give them alphabet shares. So alphabet shares, just so you know what they are, there are different classes of shares, can be anything from A class shares to all the way to Z, and we give them those shares. The good thing about shares is you can restrict certain rights. Does anybody know what rights we can restrict on shares? You might not, by the way, because...
Voting?
Sorry?
Voting?
Voting rights, there you go, that's one. So, anything else? What rights do shares usually have?
Access to dividends.
That's right. We call it income, yeah? But you're right, it is dividends. That one there. And the third one is capital, yeah? So you can limit, if they have any voting power, you can limit the income and you can limit capital. Now usually, for those who are parents or who have children, from these three, which one or which ones do you think you might limit for your children? Or for someone may limit for their children? Voting, capital or income?
Income.
Voting.
Voting. So anything else? Capital. So you give them rights to income, yeah? However, because we're looking to give the future growth to the children, so the previous growth we've pushed up into the trust. So if you survive 7 years, I think somebody over here mentioned IHT, then there's no IHT, zero IHT. So what you can do is the parents own the ordinary share capital, okay? You give the children alphabet shares, let's call it A-class shares, and these shares you freeze, so you say future value, these don't get any future value, and all the future value goes to these shares here, okay, which are called growth shares. So that helps you get rid of the IHT problem, the CDT problem, the future CDT IHT problem, and it allows you to give income to your children so you can use their personal allowance, you can use their tax-free dividend and their basic rate of tax. So this is a pretty neat and complicated structure which might apply to you either now or at some point in the future. So that's that bit there. Any questions, we'll take them at the end. Now,
Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have, by the way, make sure you click like, subscribe and post a comment because that tells me that you're engaging and you're finding the content useful. And if you like this video, make sure you check out this video here because it's the next stage in terms of your learning and development.